So if y'all could mingle in, go out, grab a friend, bring them in, wrap up the $1 million deal that's going on right now among most of you. I get ignored all the time. So. We're going to auction off Gary Schwartzlow's notes here later today, so I've got them here. We'll start the bids at $100. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started, and I know folks will mingle in as they come. Welcome to the Sustainability Symposium that we've got today. We've got a really diverse audience that we're audience and speakers. So we're going to cover many of the disciplines that we have related to peanuts and many of the issues. Our first presentation today is going to be made by Victor Nwosu. He's a program manager at Mars, and he's been a researcher there for many years and very active in APRES, and we appreciate him being here and being willing to talk to us about maintaining consumer demand for peanut products. So thanks, Victor.
Yes, just with that. Thanks, David. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, please let me know. I can speak up. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful to be in this meeting because I've been absent for 3 years, as we all know. I am here to talk to you about maintaining consumer demand for peanut products. And not only that, I'll skew it a little bit to sustaining the consumption growth rate, as we'll see with the discussions as they come up. David?
Oh, it's
oh, okay.
there we go. Yeah.
Peanut, as we know it, has a very good flavor, and that's something that we're all happy to know and enjoy. This crop that we work on, and it's a unique crop by itself, as we will see. Peanut has a very good nutritional profile, and this nutritional profile makes it something that people enjoy. And we also have studies that reveal the health benefits of peanut, which are numerous, as you can see here. And with that, comes up things that most manufacturers do. We have many manufacturers that are producing crops that consumers need. And what are all these things leading to, as you see? It leads to our ability to make products and grow the consumer demand in products. So that's something you will see, that this flavor profile plus the desire manufacturers have to make products that consumers love are making peanut growth rate increase, as you will see. And we've seen that consumption of peanut has been on the increase for many years. And the question is why? The reason stems from all the studies that have been done on peanuts in terms of flavor, in terms of compositions. And these things have been done by many scientists that we really knew and loved. We know about Kai Young, starting with him, Harold Patti, and all the rest. They did work and showed the benefit and flavor profile of peanut. And all these things were shared. And basically, people got to know the flavor and benefits of peanut, and the growth rate increased. and consumption rate increase. And if you look at all the data, both stock to use ratio, you see increase, as you can see over the years, that consumption is been growing. And not only with that, you look at the per capita consumption, you can also see the increase in consumption over all these years. And it is not by mistake. It's just based on the studies that we have done. And why is that important? In this peanut industry, we have organized and pay attention to research and sponsored most of the research. And every indicator that you look at shows that consumption of peanut has been on the increase over many years. And why is that? As we look at things, we see that there's a supply and demand aspect of things. From the supply standpoint, we have things that have made it really, really possible for consumers and manufacturers to get the peanut that they require to make products. But as we look at the market share in terms of supply aspect of things, we see the market share in this case is dynamic and subject to climate change. And I told you that consumption rate has been on the increase. And when you come to this point and look at this data, you begin to say, what is going on here? The dynamics has changed. And at the same time, we'll look at the population, the global population is increasing. And what does it mean for us? You wonder and sit back and say, what do we have to do? Let's rethink what is going on. We have been comfortable seeing the consumption rate go up. At this point, you have to pause and say, what is coming ahead? What do we need to face going forward? So if you look at recent happenings, you find that there has been research work showing that peanut has health benefits that we never took into account before. And when you look at this data a little bit, or look at the slide, you will see one thing obvious here, that you have a group of people that had never paid attention to peanut in the past are now doing work. Institutions like this, but it's not only these institutions. You look at the result they are bringing and they are publishing. Now, peanut is being associated with cardiovascular incidents. You're looking at the benefits of peanut that we haven't seen before. And all this is just making things a little bit more complex for us, that we have to think back and say, how do we meet the coming demand? Because all this information tells us that there's going to be more demand for peanut. And you find that consumers, from manufacturers' perspective, are beginning to look at food in terms of medicine. And all this is based on studies that universities are publishing, in this case, from work done by the Peanut Institute, who sponsored most of these projects within the industry. And these things make you wonder and say, what do we have to do to sustain and continue to grow the rate of consumption? We know very much that peanut quality begins in the field. That's fine. And within this field, again, as you listen to some of the talk, a few things are happening that begin to raise eyebrow. You begin to question and say, what is happening here? There are more and more regulations of agrochemicals, input that we need and relied on to grow peanuts. They are beginning to come under scrutiny. you have all these regulatory issues, putting pressure on what we use to treat fungal diseases and other infestations. So what that means is that we have to react. In terms of fungal diseases, we are fortunate that we have a lot of breeding programs and a lot of scientists who actually are working on this, addressing this issue from crop development and breeding standpoint by developing disease-resistant varieties that are beginning to show benefits and allowing us to be sure that we can grow the crops and maintain productivity. And with all the pressures and everything that we see, and from the last talk we had, there is this need to have a pipeline of better peanuts. And what does it mean? It means that we have to do work. And as the last speaker mentioned here, there is a lot of activity going on from the use of information and knowledge that we have to develop varieties. And they use all the knowledge that they have in terms of resources, from genetics, from crop standpoint, from wild species, making use of those. You begin to see that there's a lot of things that are going on. In this case, we are very, very fortunate and lucky that we have resources that are being used in this case to address these concerns. So what is this leading to? In order to maintain the consumption rate going forward, we really have to transform for the future. And what does that mean? That means we have to rethink the partnerships that we have. And I was listening to some talks earlier, and I was happy what I heard, because we're beginning to change how we look at our collaborations, how we work with each other. And this is very, very important that we revisit partnerships that we form. It's not just the old thing, we have to broaden our views. As we see things, we have seen that most of what were applied in developing and addressing some of our issues came from outside, looking outside, collaborating with other institutions, people that we haven't been working with before. So that means we have to transform ourselves in terms of partnerships that we have. Look at places that we haven't even worked closely before, and that's important. It showed in some of the results that we saw. And also we have to focus on sustainability. And sustainability of the crop is important because we have to look at all aspects of that, from production to alternative use of the crop, and how this crop is transported and how distribution happens. How do we have to be close to all these activities to make sure that we are making this crop sustainable in every aspect of it? And the other one is culture. We have to look at how have we worked together in the past? Have we reached across to other commodities? Where can we work together? And even from product development standpoint, I saw one of the products in our package, the Pamba. If you look at it, it's just a mixture of corn and peanut. So our way of developing product, what we offer consumers, we have to broaden our views and transform how we really look at things, what we use, and how we use them. Well, to grow consumption, we also have to understand that the consumers have changed. Their requirements are changing. From manufacturers, you can see this. Most consumers look at food for medicine. And What does that mean for manufacturers? For manufacturers, we have to be more innovative in product ideas and products that we develop. We have to go beyond the conventional way of looking at things. And we also have to look at alternative uses of peanut. How have we used peanut in the past? Yes, we look at those, but is it how we use peanut in the next few years, in the future? The answer is no. We have to change our views and transform how we think about product development. And we also have to realize that we have to look at peanut and health in tandem. How do we use peanut to produce products people need? What are the needs for the geriatric population in the next few years going forward? And from breeding aspect, we also have to look at how do we enhance the nutritional composition of peanuts? Do we have to change it? Are we going to meet the needs of the consumers? Do we have to look at what they need? Can we offer it to them? How do we do it with peanuts? And having said that, we'll have to realize from what we listened to earlier, that peanut is a very complex crop. And it's a young crop that is evolving. And we have to take advantage of all that knowledge. And what do we have to do that? The peanut industry made a big investment a few years back, and that's the Peanut Genomics Project. It is one of the best things that we have done to secure the future of this crop, and also to be able to meet the needs of the consumers in order to grow the consumption rate. And what does that mean? That means we have to look at the peanut genome for what it is going to offer us. We need to fully leverage it to be able to improve yield beyond what it is. I can ask anybody now, what is the yield capacity of peanut? We don't even know that. We haven't addressed that. Have we reached it? And what do we do to reach that capacity? Because we will need it. Why? The population is increasing globally, and the requirements are increasing. The weather is changing, making distribution of crops and use of crops a little bit dynamic. Talk about flavor. Can we improve flavor? Probably yes. And can we do more? Yes. Do we have to change the nutritional composition of peanut? Yes. And do we have what it takes to do it? We have a tool now that we can use, which is called the peanut genome, the genetics aspect of things. We have not explored it completely. And the bioactives, we haven't looked at what do we have to do with peanut compositions in terms of the composition, the components that could be used as bioactive for health purposes, and other attributes that are useful for growers as well. So what does this mean? This means that we have to reframe the future and how we will do it. We'll do it by maintaining some of the things we've done in the past. And what does that mean? If you look at the way we're structured, we have segments, the grower segment, we have the seller segment, you have the manufacturer segment. Good and dandy. We can't change it. We don't have to change it. There's a reason why all that happened. Rather, we have to reframe how we look at all those things and use it to reframe the future of this crop. And what does that mean? We will look at having better and more collaboration among the segments. If we identify certain needs that we have, we can work on it collectively. We have to look at the success of the peanut genome. It was a combination of work done or supported by the whole industry. The growers, manufacturers, shellers all contributed to this. And we also have to do what we've been doing, support research funding, and scale it up. Look at nutritional aspect of things, the agronomics, the genomics, and the marketing aspect of it, because there has to be that marketing component. When you talk to people in Europe, they tend to say US is not quite a reliable supply origin. And to some reason, at some level, there is logic in it, and they make sense in that they look at Argentina, and Argentina is a reliable source for them because there is no home consumption, not much home consumption of peanut produced in Argentina. So they produce for export market. How do we look at all those things? We have to look at it collectively. And the most important thing is we have to preserve and expand our genetic resources. We are lucky to have people like Dr. Simpson who have come to make all these collections, wild germplasm. And we say we have them, we have all these other collections that we have. How do we preserve those resources? Most of these things will be lost forever. And the ones that we have, we really need to preserve them. And you will see the benefit of that in the work that was touched upon today. We have two things that are important. One is the wild species that we have. We haven't even started tapping into the benefits of it or the reach of it, because these wild germplasms are going to be the future for us to change the peanut as we know it and improve things, because the wild species have attributes that we haven't even completely looked at and explored thoroughly. So with that, I think we have to also focus on understanding the needs of all the segments. With that, we will be able to make things much easier and better for us. And this will enable us to ensure the sustainability of the crop. And without the sustainability of the crop, we can maintain or grow the growth rate of consumption of peanuts. So with that, I said we have to look at reframing the picture. The picture is good. All we need to do is reframe it and focus on those things that we can do to meet our needs. That is, to be able to have the right peanuts with the right compositions, with the right attributes that we can use to make products that we offer to our consumers. And with that, I'll say thank you, and I may take any questions.
Got time for a couple of questions if there are some?
Yes, Bob.
My question is this: from your perception at 30,000 feet working with industry, okay, is if you look at all the products, you look at the other nuts that are available, the almonds, the filbert nuts, all those things, you look at international trade, what would you say is the biggest problem for peanuts as far as Mars Wrigley goes that we as researchers in extension may not recognize as you face in the industry, as far as continuing to position products that are peanut-based?
Yes. To answer that question, I'll tell you that our needs are dynamic, as you know it. We have plans to grow the business. We're also making acquisitions. You see Kind and other things coming up shortly. But the biggest thing that has been there is flavor. And degrades distribution. So that's something that is very, very important that the industry need to pay attention to, not only for us, for other users as well. That's important. We cannot, I listened to some of the talks yesterday, newer varieties. When you put all these varieties, you also have to put the flavor profile out there. I thought most people assume, because we know that they evaluate most for the new releases for flavor before they release them. But sometimes when you make assumptions, you could be wrong. But pay attention to flavor. And to add to that, we talked about oil composition. That's good to have that, but be able to differentiate it from what goes into edible market, because high oil can also be a hindrance to consumption. If it's soggy, most consumers won't need it. They need that crunchiness of roasted peanut to deliver to consumers' needs.
Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.